Hello, welcome guys. This is FineWineToMe, and this episode we are talking about Tokaj. Tokaj as Hungary, as the wine region, and there's a new brand which just established itself a couple of years ago, and I have Rita Takaro as my guest today, who is the co-founder, managing director of this new Tokaj brand, and it's an exciting one. But let's talk about that after the intro. Hello, Rita. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, Chara. Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
So, there's a lot to talk about, and the reason is, I don't know which one should I show. I have one nice bottle here. It's the Mad Moser brand. Is this your brainchild, your own project, or half of it is yours, actually? So I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later. The obvious thing to start with is how you ended up in the wine trade. How did you become an insider in Tokaj? Are you still an insider?
Yeah, so thank you for the introduction. Just shortly introduce myself. I would start with the story of my childhood, which started in the Great Plain of Hungary, which is actually the biggest wine growing area. My parents are living there, and the wine has been early on an important role in my life because my parents had vineyards when I was a child. And I started to work and support my parents very early when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. I was not really happy this fact as child, and my parents always told me, learn and study, otherwise you have to stay in a vineyard. So that's
a very Hungarian way of looking
yes,
at it.
Educate the child. Or motivate the child to going into the school rather than working outside. But it was not bad, and later on I think it's the right way to growing up and learning from the parents, not only in the house but also outside. So we had the vineyards, and I really appreciate the wines even from this area, from the Great Plain, where we produce wines. And the village where my parents are living is a very important place for producing sparkling wines from Hungary, because the local autochthon grape variety, the 𝘱𝘭𝘪𝘭 from this village, from 𝘱𝐺𝐴, where my parents are living, it's a great grape variety for base wine, for sparkling wine. Yeah, so that's the point where I started my wine life. I would not say career, because it started a little bit later after my studies, when I visited a wine festival in Tokaj, and I fell in love with a winemaker. It's my ex-husband, and my story in Tokaj started at this point. And actually, my first job was at the Tokaj Renaissance Association, which is the union of the premium Grand Cru vineyards of Tokaj. I started to work as a secretary for this association in 2006. And during a period of 6 years, I had the possibility to learn from the best wine producers of the Tokaj region, who are uniting their forces in this association. So during this time, I was the managing director of this association. I had the possibility to learn a lot from the Tokaj wine producers who are the members of the association, 18, 20 members that time we had in this union. And I had the possibility to travel a lot with the best Tokaj wines. And I had the possibility to showcase the best quality Tokaj wines all around the world in almost all wine fairs and different kind of international wine event. So this is how I became insider from an outsider.
Did you ever feel you were an insider? Did you ever feel you were an outsider to start with? In Tokaj, for example? Did they welcome you, or was it difficult to get into because there's a small community, if you think about it?
Yeah, it's a small community, but from the first day I felt this is my mission. I studied in Budapest economy and foreign trade, and when I saw the possibility to work with Tokaj wine producers, I totally understood that it's it's a mission for me because I studied foreign trade, and I think the Tokaj wine producers need to go outside, and it's a great product to work with internationally.
Yeah.
So I felt I was immediately insider as soon as I started to work with the Tokaj wine producers.
And it's quite funny because you grew up with grapes and you grew up with wine in your life, and then you moved to a historic wine region, and you had an important role of promoting Tokaj generally all around, not just in Hungary, but more abroad, I would say. Then you became sort of an outsider after a while because you moved and you don't live in Hungary at the moment. How is that connected to this whole journey?
Yeah, it's true. So because of my private life, which led me to another country, I started to live in Austria 8 years ago. But my connection to the wines and to the Tokaj wines generally not disappeared. So my connection is still there, or even stronger than before, because as an outsider right now, I started my project in Tokaj with another outsiders 3 years ago.
That's what makes this project, I think, even more interesting, because you obviously have your connections, you obviously have your friendships in Tokaj, and you know the place probably inside out. And also your project is not just you, but it's also a very famous Austrian winemaker who, I think we can say, Lenz Moser, who is your business partner in this project. It's a different project. It's not an everyday Tokaj project, I'd say. And I think that's why it's even more interesting. Do you think the history of Tokaj is important in producing all these wines? Obviously, the history is important when you're producing the wines, but when you try to market it to the world, is history an important element? And the reason I'm asking is because on your labels, I noticed something which says that the king of wine and the wine of kings is Tokaj, and I think it was Louis XIV. I can't remember, but yeah, I think it was Louis XIV who said that. And you put this on the label. Do you think it's important? Do you really think it's a connection which is relevant to today's world?
Yes, definitely. The Tokaj has a long centuries history, very rich in history. And Tokaj was every time and in every decades a mixture of tradition and innovation. Our roots are very, very important. Even the history of Tokaj was not always bright. So we lost many times in the past. And we can talk about a new area from the beginning of when we had the political change and foreign investors had the possibility to invest in Tokaj and somehow restart to build up the reputation of the Tokaj region. So yes, definitely the history is very important because the brand image of Tokaj is because of our really great history going back to the 12th, 13th, especially in the 17th, 18th century, had a lot of fame, the Tokaj wines, but the sugar had a really great reputation, the national sugar. The sugar was expensive stuff, and Tokaj wines were the most important diplomatic tools of Hungary. And of course, a lot of people love the taste of the wines because it's just amazing what the nature can create in Tokaj, especially in the sweet wines. So Tokaj had and has a brand image. A lot of people knows the name, but less and less people drinking Tokajs.
Yeah.
And there are many factors which are, of course, affecting this fact, but the roots are important, and Tokaj is an innovative wine region. So if I'm talking about Tokaj, I'm always saying Tokaj is a traditional but new region.
Okay. The new old word.
Yeah,
Quite
exactly.
often. The only thing I want to challenge you on a little bit is, do you think for today's generation of wine drinkers, a message from Louis XIV really is that important, or is that just to underline the fact that actually this place has been around for centuries now? Because I think from one angle I can understand it, but from the other side, I don't think many youngsters nowadays, or in their 20s, in their 30s, really, they obviously know Louis XIV or heard about him, but they can't really put their finger on where in history he lived and why is that important when you're drinking a wine today. So that's my only thing about this. I'm not sure if you agree with me.
Yes, you're right. Toka is somehow a dusty story. We
Yeah,
have to renew the story
yeah,
and put it for the new generation, for the new wine customers. In a way, it gives a connection to the history. And nowadays, I think, especially at the new generation, is important to get a story because we are so niche. And if you have no roots, there are so many new wine regions
yeah.
growing every day from new areas without any history. And I think the history is very important if you are talking about Tokaj, even in an innovative way. We want to
Yeah.
represent the wines.
You marketed Tokai for, for quite a few years now. You understand how people receive the wine abroad as well, but you probably know quite well how they receive the wine at home back in Hungary. Do you think Tokai is easy to sell at the moment, or is it a difficult product to sell generally around the world?
Yeah, I would say the second one. So it's not easy to sell nowadays, Tokaj wines, especially because Tokaj is not anymore only sweet wine.
Yeah.
Generally, if I'm speaking about sweet wine, are challenging a lot of factors in the wine world, which is not good to sell sweet wines nowadays. Sweet is not healthy. The sweet is generally avoided fact. We want
Mm-hmm.
not eat sweet, not drink sweet. But the situation in the other side, everybody is drinking a lot of sweet stuffs, but the rejection is big, I
Yeah.
can say, generally. And if we are talking about Tokaj wines, of course, we have the new face of Tokaj, the dry wines, which are again challenging because there are so many great dry wines in the world. So the competition is really hard. And we are such a small wine region in the wine world that we are niche of the niche. So
Yeah.
if we are talking about selling Tokaj wines internationally and domestically, both is different, difficult and challenging because even in Hungary, in a domestic market, the competition is very hard, and there are other wine regions which are maybe more preferable than Tokaj wines. And if we're talking about the Hungarian wine customers, is still the trend is connected with the history. So the Tokaj wines are the most important present, and we
Yeah.
still keep the wine on the furniture because we are proud of this product if we receive a bottle of Tokaj instead of drinking it immediately.
You put it on top of the fridge, yes, unfortunately.
Me not, but I'm talking about the general Hungarian,
Yes, yeah, generally, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
wine drinkers or not, even not wine drinkers are very proud to get a Tokaj wine, but maybe they keep it for for a special occasion, which is nice, but we want to change this trend, of course. And international, the situation is different. Sweet wines are very niche. It's difficult to engage the customers for sweet wines. But if we are doing an effective way to show the potential for sweet wines, of course, everybody who's tasting the Tokaj wines are totally happy with it and would taste it again.
Mhm.
So I think the sales is challenging, but there are different methods how can we engage markets and customers in each market, international
On
and domestically. It's fun.
on the Hungarian market, do you think the Hungarian market needs a bit of soft education about how to appreciate wine? Because obviously, I compare it to England, where drinking wine in England is a very everyday thing for an average consumer. Whether it's good wine, bad wine, it doesn't matter. In Hungary, drinking wine is not considered an everyday part of life, and therefore people are a little bit afraid of drinking quality wine because they don't know how to drink it. Or does it make sense? I don't know if it makes sense. it's just a very difficult thing to explain an average Hungarian what is good wine, why good wine is good, and how they should appreciate it. I don't know if soft education could be the way to overcome this challenge. I don't know. Does it?
So I would say generally we are a wine drinking country in Hungary because if I'm not mistaken, 70% of the local wines in Hungary produced wines are drinking locally. And what is the percentage of Tokaj wines? Generally, I don't know exactly, but I know that the Tokaj producers are the first one if we are talking about export. So average 50% of the Tokaj wines are going abroad. The education is important everywhere in the world, even in Hungary, because the normal people, I think there are differences between people living in the countryside or living in the cities. And people, especially the young generations, are much more educated in wine, generally living in the cities than outside. And I think the premium wine consumption is also growing in Hungary. So we cannot say that we have to educate drinking premium wines, because we had a boom of Villain, great premium red wines a few years ago, and it's still stable that the people are able to pay more money for premium. The situation with Tokaj is a little bit different than with Villain. Villain is more familiar for the Hungarian wine customers, and Tokaj is much more mystical thing, I would say.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the general Hungarian customers.
But you can't say it's because of price, is it? I mean, obviously, an expensive Furmint is going to be expensive whether you are abroad or back home. But you can get fairly well-priced dry Furmints, for example, both in Hungary and abroad as well. So I don't know is it something to do with the price, the mystique of Tokaj in Hungary? I don't know. You think it comes down to the price or not really?
It's not the price point, I think, which is part of this topic, because how I mentioned, people are able and they have willing to pay more for red wines. Yeah. So the Hungarian red wines from the south area are much more expensive sometimes than the Tokaj wines.
Okay.
But generally with the Tokaj wines, I think education is needed because the Furmint is also new for the Hungarian customers, the dry Tokaj, not only for the international wine lovers. And yes, we have to educate people. And of course, there are different price segments in each category. On the supermarkets, you can very cheap dry Tokaj wines in the discounters. And also sweet wines are relatively available on a reasonable price in Hungary.
Yeah. Do you think Furmint is the way, regardless whether it's in Hungary or abroad?
Yes, I think it's the focus. How we could sell Tokaj internationally, first of all, because I'm thinking more internationally. I'm not really home in the domestic market situation right now, but I try to sell our Tokaj wines abroad, first of all, and we created our brands first of all to sell it internationally. And I think Furmint is the key. Word, grape variety, wine to promote Tokaj internationally, because this is the most widely planted grape variety and it is a low autochthon grape variety somehow, and we can say it has the potential to represent Tokaj because it's a great grape variety and it is the main ingredients of our sweet wines, of course. So Furmint is the connection to all of our wine style, and it has the potential to produce the best dry and sweet wines of the world.
Okay. One more thing on Tokaj, though, before we move on to the brand, because I think the brand is going to be quite important as well. Red wine. What do you think about making red wine in Tokaj? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Should be done or not? I know it's a big debate in Hungary and even within the winemakers of Tokaj, and some people try to do it. Obviously, you're not allowed to call it Tokaj. It can be white and sparkling wine. But yeah, what do you think about red wine in Tokaj?
I think generally internationally it's difficult to educate people about Tokaj because the Tokaj region and its wine styles and its SKU structures, so the portfolio is simply too complicated. That's the reason we eliminated some of the categories in the Tokaj regional wine regulations. And we have no less puttonyos category, for example. So it was redefined the Tokaji Aszu category because we have just too much sweet wines, 𝘪𝘪𝘪𝘵, late harvest, Aszu, and we need to make it simpler to understand for the wine customers if you want to sell our wines, because the Tokaj portfolio is just too complicated. And if I'm talking about the Tokaj sect, the sparkling wine, sorry, which is a new category, then we want to create something which is not part of the Tokaj portfolio right now, red wines. I don't think it's a good idea. So if I'm telling about Tokaj, I want to make it as clear and as simply as possible, because otherwise, if the wine customers are confusing, they will never be really engaged with our product. Because if something is too complicated, they don't want to have it. That's my opinion.
I mean, it's obvious that the message has to be simple, but if you just consider, it's probably not the right comparison, but when you talk about Bordeaux has white wine, Bordeaux has red wine, Bordeaux has sparkling wine, they have Sauternes as a dessert wine. So
yeah, but Bordeaux is a much bigger wine region with a lot of sub-regions, and we are just a small, tiny 5,500 hectares region.
I know. It's just as a comparison, it is possible, it's doable, but I understand your logic.
So I think Tokaj is so colorful. If we're talking about Tokaj, all in a white category. So we can give such a great wines in dry, different styles, different dry wines. And then we have the different kind of categories of sweet wines, the traditional one, the 𝘪𝘪𝘪𝘵, then if we are not talking about 𝘍𝘪𝘨 and 𝘪𝑚áshlás, because it makes it much more complicated. We have the different kind of late harvest styles and the Aszu. So it's such an amazing, colorful portfolio. Why should add more? We should communicate the actual one on the right way to get the customers. This is my opinion, and not add more products.
On that note, okay, I keep challenging you with this one. Sparkling wine, because sparkling wine wasn't a thing in Hungary, or not in Hungary, so in Hungary it was, but in Tokaj, was that a reasonable thing to do, to introduce? Will it ever take off? What do you think?
The trends are growing towards with sparkling wines, and that was not a bad decision to give into our regional wine law, wine regulations, to add the Tokaj sparkling wine, because everybody wants to drink everywhere sparkling wines, and why not? We have the terroir, we have the grape variety. Why not? It's not a challenging wine, so I think it can give only profitability to the Tokaj region, but I would not focus too much on this category because it's not a traditional product from the region.
I'll stop challenging you now. You can be relieved, but mainly because I want to talk about Mad Moser a little bit. Your wine brand. I don't know, can I call it a wine brand? Is it a wine brand?
Yes.
I think it's a wine brand, I would say. Because it's not a secret that you don't make the wine, neither does Lenz Moser. You choose the wines. What impact do you have on the wines which goes into the bottle?
Yeah, we not just choose the wines, but we blend the wine for the style we imagine to create. That's the right way to describe our wines if we're talking about winemaking techniques. But generally about the brand, it's a new brand, a new wine from the Tokaj region, the Mad Moser, which we created with Lenz Moser together. We met Lenz 9 years ago when at that time I was working for Grand Tokaj. And we had a feeling immediately that we have to do something together for the region internationally. Lenz is a big fan of Furmint, grape variety, and a big fan of Tokaj wines generally, because he spent a lot of time with his father and with his family in Hungary. He's the 15th generation of the Moser family in Austria, and he's a real global-minded winemaker somehow, because he had great challenging jobs at the family winery, and then he was the representative of Mondavi wines in Europe for a long period, and he started his challenging job with Chinese 𝘱𝐿 wines 20 years ago. So he's a great global flying winemaker with open-minded thinking. And when we met, I felt immediately he is a person who could see Tokaj from outside and give something new for the region. And that time was not the right time to do something for the region. But 3 years ago, Lenz just called me and said, hey, I cannot forget Tokaj. We have to do something for the region. At that time, I already was living in Austria. And we started to think, how could we do something innovative for the region, which can help for the region, which can help generally for the Tokaj wines, and decided to do this brand, the Mad Moser, which is a new innovative brand from the Tokaj region, with the aim we have to put Tokaj together to the world map. And the way how we want to do it, the key point is the Furmint. So we believe in the grape variety. We believe that Furmint can give great wines in dry and also in sweet styles, of course. But first of all, in the beginning of our projects, we wanted to focus only on the dry phases of Tokaj, because we really believe Furmint is able to give us a premium wine which can get more awareness from abroad and can engage much more customers in the premium segment. And we wanted to do it in a very innovative way. That's the reason we have a very special packaging, a little bit different than the average look from the Tokaj region. So we created a very eye-catching label, because our aim is to get the wine from the shelf for the customers, and then after first, second sip to get the whole bottle, and or aim that the customers buying the next bottle because they are happy with the taste of the wine. So not only the outfit, not only the bottle and the packaging is new, but also the inside liquid. The wine is for the international customer taste. Mm-hmm. It's a friendly Furmint. It means we are very proud of the terroir, and Furmint is a grape variety which can reflect perfectly the terroir. And we really believe that the best vineyards around the village mart can give great volcanic mineral dry wines, but we wanted to create something friendly.
Yes, easy drinking, you mean?
Not easy drinking, but it's not an easy drinking wine. It has the complexity, it has the length, and it has the body and the fire, but it's somehow friendly. So it has a touch of residue sugar. It has a touch of aromatic character. It's just good to drink.
Yes, so it's a not easy drinking, but an easily approachable wine, because yes, it's going to be easy to drink for everyone, regardless whether they wine connoisseurs or whether they just first-time drinkers. Is that the aim?
Yes, with our first wine, yes, true, because we have two different Furmints. So the first one is the MM5, and the second one is the big brother, the MM55. The MM55, it's not an easy drinkable wine. So it's a very serious wine, fermented and aged in oak, 100%. From the best, we selected from the best vineyards of Mad, around Szent Tamás, 𝘍𝐿𝐴 𝘍𝑘irály, the barrel samples to finalize in the blending process, the final wine. So the second one, the big brother, it's much more complicated, much more complex wine, which can be tasted along the best white wines of the world.
You obviously want to make this project or these wines benchmarks in their categories as well. Is that right?
Yes.
To be benchmark in their price group or benchmark in their style? What is the aim then? Which one? or as a benchmark general?
We wanted to create something eye-catching, something new style in a premium segment. It's very important. So we are acting only in the premium segment, where we have much more work to selling our wines, because we have to really educate people. And benchmark, we are doing and organizing many tastings in different kind of countries, where we put our wines next to the best known other wines from the world, because we want to show the potential of the wines. I don't know if I answered your question, sorry.
Yes. No, I mean, my real question is the benchmark for the style of wine you want to create, like you want all Furmints to be compared to this Furmint, or would you go wider and more international, but probably this is the latter one, I think, what you're talking about, against wines of Burgundy, wines of Rioja, wines of all sorts of things. But I think it's the latter one, as far as I understand, is it?
Yes, so it's difficult because Furmint has so many different kind of faces in the Tokaj region.
Yeah.
Also in the price categories and in styles. So you cannot get the same taste from different wine producers. But of course, it would be nice to represent the Furmint somehow in a common way internationally with a similar taste profile. Then we could say that the Furmint, this is Furmint. But it's very difficult because the Furmint, how I mentioned, reflect perfectly the terroir, and the Furmint coming from the Mad Basin vineyards are totally different than Furmints are coming from the north part of the region, from 𝘱𝘪𝘨𝘪𝘵, from 𝘱𝘪𝘨𝘪𝘵. So it's difficult to say it could be the benchmark of Tokaj, but of course our aim is to sell in this premium segment wines in expanding volume, because we want to show that Furmint can give different kind of styles, and we want to reach the premium customers. So our aim is generally to improve the image of the Tokaj region through our wines, and maybe it can help to improve the price generally in the Tokaj region, and can somehow get the other wine producers on the board with our philosophy. We are selling wines internationally.
It's actually quite funny because you mentioned that dry Furmint can be very different from Mad to 𝘱𝘪𝘨𝘪𝘵. Such a small region and still such a wide array of different styles. Does that help? That sort of takes me back to my previous question a little bit. Does that help selling Tokaj or dry Furmint abroad? Because if you think about it, a Gruner Veltliner from Austria or an Albarino from Spain, a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, you know what you're going to get when you buy the bottle, or at least you have a general idea. When you buy a bottle of dry Furmint, you will never know which styles you're going to get. Obviously, it has some similarities, but in some Furmints, for example, in your case, MM5 is the one where you get the lighter style, the fresher style, the unoaked version. And then when you buy the same brand, just the MM55, you get the oaks, the full-on classic bigger wine when you consider Burgundy or when you consider even Napa. So the two different styles, and then the consumer probably not 100% sure what to buy. Does that
Yes, it's true
compromise
somehow,
the sales?
but generally the price is indicating the quality. I think generally, if I'm talking about generic Bordeaux or Bourgogne, but the generic wines are less expensive, and in case of Furmint, the less expensive wines are also unoaked, fresh, fruity wines with nice acidity balance. This is how I would describe Furmint generally in the inexpensive category. And of course, there are the more expensive stuff coming from the Tokaj region, which are already oaked in and fermented in oak, which are coming from a single vineyard or coming from a well-known wine producers. So the price can somehow indicate. But of course, we are so niche and we have to educate the people to learn about the Tokaj wines generally and about the Furmint generally, because Furmint as a dry Tokaj wine, totally unknown in the wine world. Sommeliers, of course, have some knowledge, and people who are studying WSET and so on, they have some knowledge and some connection with the Furmint, but the people are going to the supermarket and want to drink something new, are open to learn about a new wine region, has no information about dry Furmint. So how can we get the customers for the dry Furmint, especially in the premium segment? That is the challenge, because in the cheap segment there are so many wines and only the price which can help to sell the wines. But in the premium segment, where we have to compete well-known brands and well-known grape varieties, Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, and wine category, so in price category, even in MM5 where we stay at 20-25 euros, you can get premium Grüner Veltliner in Austria and premium white wines, well-known brands abroad. That's the challenging point, to get the customers for a new grape variety, for something exotic, something not known.
Yes. Yeah, it is certainly a challenge. I think one thing I would say is the marketing behind it is very good, just generally. I think the packaging is obviously striking. It's different. It's not something what you would see from Tokaj otherwise. I think the name Mad Moser is also very good. Obviously, it can be read as Mad Moser, but it's nothing to do with madness. It refers to the village of Mad, which is probably, I'd say, one of the centers or epicenters of Tokaj, where you actually get the best out of Tokaj. You clearly state that this is a Furmint. I have to ask you one question. What is MM5? What is MM55? And what is MM555, which we haven't talked about yet, but that's the sweet one. So what's with the fives? Because I know there's a funny story about this, but maybe you better to explain. There are multiple funny stories about this, but yes. Okay.
Yes. So I mentioned my business partner is Lenz Moser, is a global-minded winemaker, acting already for more than 20 years in China, and a lot of connections with the numbers and with the culture things with the numbers, which is important in China. And we released our first wine with the vintage 2021 MM5 on 5th of May. 5th of 5th, so it's double 5, and we wanted to create a shorter name for our wines, because Mad Moser, Tokaj, Furmint, it's just generally too complicated again to memorize, and we have tried to make it simpler to just recognize the wine, and we decided to add this MM5 onto the label, which is the shorter name of Mad Moser. At 5, because we released our first wine 5th of May, and because 5 is a lucky number in China, why not? So this is the reason we put MM5 on to the first label and MM55 on the second label, because it was released on 5th of September on my birthday. The big wine, we call it just Icon, MM55. And it has 5 aspects even more than the first one, because of the terroir we selected from the best vineyards, because of the character of the oak, which can give extra spicy into the wine, because of the complexity of the wine. And I could mention even more than 5 aspects, which gives this wine more than the other one. And we have our third wine.
You have
in the portfolio, the MM5, yeah. And the reason behind this wine, that how I mentioned, we started with the total focus on dry wines, but the customers wanted to get something sweet from us, because Tokaj is well known because of its sweet wines. And it's very difficult to get internationally with Tokaj wines without sweet wines, without the super complex premium botrytized sweet wines. So that's the reason we decided to add one more wine into our portfolio. And this is the last one, so we don't want to add anymore. So 𝗪𝐵5 is a 10 years sweet wines, because we believe that they also can be really good after 10 years, aging in the bottles, of course. And that's the reason we have the 𝗪𝐵5 portfolio from the vintage 2013, which is a co-branding with Grand Tokaj, because that time we had not the brand Mad Moser yet, but we have the connection with the Grand Tokaj from our history with Lenz, which started at this company. So it's a nice story. And with the sweet wine, we made complete our portfolio from Tokaj.
Yes. Yeah. What do you think, where you want to go with the brand generally? What is your, apart from being, a benchmark for Tokaj or a benchmark in your category, where do you want to go with it? How far you want to grow it, or do you have any plans or any expectations for the brand itself?
Yeah, sure, we have plans. So we want to sell our wines in 60 different countries, at least.
Okay.
And we want to make awareness for the Tokaj region generally. So I mentioned it's not just selling wines. So it's a kind of mission. We invested with Lenz together. So we have our own company in Austria for these brands, and we try to sell through this company or brands internationally. And of course, we want to do something for the region, for Hungary, from the brand image generally for Hungary. And I'm really thankful to do this project, because I mentioned I'm living in Austria, and I'm somehow a bridge between Austria and Hungary and the international markets where we try to sell our wines.
Yeah. So 60 different countries. How many to go?
Actually available in, I would say, 13 already.
13. Okay, there's still plenty more to do, but that's
we just started.
Yes,
2 years
exactly.
ago.
So we have the MM5 2023 vintage, which I have here, and you are just on 2021 and moving on to 2023 now. So I haven't tasted this wine yet. I'm looking forward to it, but yeah, we will see. In general terms, how do you see the future for Mad Moser, Tokaj, and Hungary? Because obviously that's the ultimate goal, to bring Hungary up or put it back on the map. I don't know if it's the right way to phrase it, but yeah.
Yes, I'm very optimistic. So for me, the future of Tokaj wines and generally Hungary wines are bright and sunny, because I really believe that with the constant quality producers, we can go abroad and we can show the potential of our wines. There are so many beautiful wines producing also in other area of Hungary, and if we believe in our product, and this is, I think, the main point, that we have to believe that we are good enough for the international markets. And Mad Moser is a great example to show where is the potential of the Tokaj wines generally, because we put our wines next to the best in the tastings blind. We are not afraid to lose anything, because Château d'Yquem next to our 𝘂 is not better than we. And we believe that internationally we should have much more power. But first of all, we have to believe in ourselves and in our products. And because we have everything to give the best wines in a niche, in the premium segment. And of course, Tokaj has a little bit more potential to sell the wines internationally than other Hungarian wines, because I mentioned we are a niche of the niche. But if we believe and we're working hard on the premium segment, then we can achieve really nice results in coming 10, 20, 30 years.
Yes, I think first of all, I wish you luck for this, because I think it's a great initiative. And secondly, I really like the fact that you mentioned 10, 20, 30 years, because a lot of people nowadays want instant gratification, they want instant results, and they want instant everything. But it's already a major step forward when you realize that things don't just appear out of thin air, and it's a long process. And I think patience is always one of the main factors of people's unhappiness. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's because you need patience for a lot of things. And then wine is the same. Wine is not something what you create in 10 minutes, and it's obviously not going to be an instant success. And when you're building a brand as well, and when you're building awareness for a style or a region or a country, obviously you need time. And I think that's already a good way to look at it. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to try the MM5, because I haven't tasted the new vintage yet. I'm sure it's superb. I tasted the other two and they are absolutely superb as well. I think you did a really good job on the labels and the packaging generally, the wine, and it has a bit of a story with the number 5 as well. I think, yeah, let's go for the next 10, 20, 30 years, and then let's see how it develops. Maybe, who knows, in 10 years time you change your mind and you make red wine as well.
I hope I can motivate a little bit other wine producers also to be brave, to go into the international markets with a clear strategy. And the most important thing, we have to believe in our product, because we have everything to be famous, of course, with a limited awareness, but because we are so small, but we have everything to be among the best. We have the great terroir, we have the great local grape variety. We just have to believe and go to the international market with a nice price strategy, and not sell our wines cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the main message from myself.
Yes, well, I think so. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Rita, for your time, and thank you everyone who watched it or listened to this podcast. We will come back with another one very soon, but in the meantime, keep drinking good wine, guys. Cheers.
Thank you for the invitation.